webinar is titled, What Recruiters Look For When Hiring. Our presenter today is Hannah Morgan, a job search and social media strategist. Hannah serves as a guide to today's complex job search. She is passionate about keeping up with the latest trends and strategies in recruiting to help job seekers stand out in the competitive job market. Media and career professionals recognize Hannah as an advocate for active careerists, providing actionable tips and advice. She's the author of 2 books and is frequently quoted in local and national media. She's also a regular contributor to U.S. News and World Report. You can learn more about Hannah at careersherpa.net and follow her on Twitter at careersherpa. We are thrilled to have you with us today, Hannah. Welcome. Let's get started.
Great. Thank you so much, Cindy. It's a pleasure to be here, and welcome, everybody. Really, this will be fun to talk about because one of the things that we're going to be doing is sort of reframing how we think of job search rather than from our eyes to really better understand what recruiters are looking for and what we can do to better capture their attention by giving them what they're looking for and highlighting the right things. So that's kind of where we're going to be going with this. And I'm just
You've got the ball now, Hannah. There you go.
I got it. Great. This is wonderful. So this is what I plan on covering today, the 7 sources recruiters use to find not just any candidates, but high-quality candidates, and what to share and what not to share on social media. And there's 3 simple things, well, maybe they're not so simple, but 3 things for sure you can do during an interview to win that interviewer over. And all of this data that we're going to be talking about today, and I'm sort of a data hound, I love information, all of this information that we're talking about today comes from the most recent Recruiter Nation report, which is produced by JobVite. And JobVite, for those of you that don't know, is a social recruiting software, but they surveyed over 800 U.S. recruiters and asked them questions to get this information that we're going to be talking about, that they've summarized and we're going to be talking about today. I think it's a really good perspective on what current recruiters are doing. And that's not necessarily to say all recruiters are doing this, but this is sort of giving you a benchmark of what you can do to really enhance what it is you are doing when you are looking for work. Because sometimes I think we hold on to strategies and things that we thought used to work for us, and maybe we need to switch it up a little bit. So let's start by asking a poll question. I'd love to get your feedback on this and get an idea of where you think, what you think is most important to recruiters as they are looking at somebody's qualifications. I'm going to give you a few minutes to quickly respond. You should see the poll over on your right-hand side of the screen. If you can just quickly respond to what do you think is the most important thing to a recruiter. Obviously, there are probably lots of things that are important, but what do you think they say is most important to them as they are evaluating a candidate? I'm going to give you a few more seconds to sort of take a look at this to see what we can come up with. This will give us an idea of where you are sort of in understanding what recruiters think is important. And actually, in the responses, in the report that JobVite produced, they actually listed the top 3. So we're going to talk about those once we get the poll up and done, which we've now got the results, I think.
10 seconds. 10 seconds and counting.
It always takes a while, right? But good. Thank you, everybody. Take that vote, and we'll get a look at what the results find about what you think is most important.
Here they are.
There we are. Great. Can everybody see them, Cindy? Or
yes,
just me?
Everyone should see them. Yep.
Awesome. Great. So this is really interesting. Years of experience, B, is up there. Second, I think, is fitting in with the culture. And then a lot of people just weren't sure or didn't give an answer. So we'll look at the third. There's knowing someone in the company. You guys did a pretty good job because if we looked at those recruiters that JobVite posted, most of them said years of previous experience. was most important to them. Previous job experience, not necessarily years of experience, but 92% of recruiters said that what's important to them is having some previous job experience related to what they want to hire for. Next, 83% cited culture fit as being important, and 51%, more than half of the recruiters, agreed that an important criteria to hiring somebody is getting an employee referral. So just that alone, I'm hoping helps you think a little bit more about, okay, what are you giving the recruiter in your resume and in your LinkedIn profile, and what are you doing in your job search that's going to really address the three most important hiring factors? So let's think about that for a second. On your resume, have you proven clearly and in multiple ways that you have the exact experience that the company is looking for? It's not necessarily years, it's industry knowledge, it's process and procedures that you know how to do. On your resume, in your LinkedIn profile, you have a great opportunity to feed that information exactly as the recruiter wants to see it in your summary and your information. The other thing to think about is you do want to show that you fit in with the culture. And so if you are partaking already in outside activities, what better way to show that your values and the values of the company may align by showing outside activities or being involved in some of the same activities that a company is interested in. The other thing that you can do to sort of show that your experience and your fitting in with the culture and that you know people is to be active on social media through LinkedIn profile updates, through other social media profile updates, and we'll look at more about why that's important. But as you know, LinkedIn is the #1 tool, social network-wise, that employers are using, that recruiters are using. So your social media profile does show everybody that you know in your network, or it can show that, and recruiters pay attention to that stuff. If you know a lot of the same people, that can bode very well for you. So those are some of the actions that you can be taking today. Make sure that you're thinking about throughout this entire presentation what you can do to shake up your job search to make it work better for you. We just finished one poll, but now it's time for another because I love to help you rethink what employers and recruiters are looking for. Today, now the current question is that I want you to respond to is, where do you think recruiters go to find the very best talent? They can go to all these places, right? But which one do you think is the tool they go to find the best quality candidate? So you're going to quickly just select an answer. And while you're thinking about that, be thinking, too, about where you as a job seeker are going to find good quality job leads. Are you going to the boards? Are you talking to people that used to work there? Where are you going to find the best quality job leads? Because my hunch is that your answer and the answer of a recruiter are going to be very similar. So we're thinking about where would the recruiter go to find the very best talent? And these are some of the places we know that they're already using. What we're not seeing is, walk-ins or newspaper. We know that those means of promoting a job opportunity are long gone. Who knows? What's old may become new again. So now we're seeing, you guys are so savvy. You're great. The poll results are in, and what it's showing is that employers or that recruiters know that they can find the best talent through employee referrals, yeah. And internal hires, yes. And we see ranked pretty highly social networks up there. Yep, those are all true. Yeah, you guys are great. Internet job boards still rank high, but let's go see exactly what. You guys are right on track. That when JobVite looked at the answers for the sources of high-quality candidates, employers reported that employee referrals ranked #1, and they ranked above internal hires by just a little bit in the overall high to very high category. Normally it's clearly the internal hires that win, but what we're seeing now is that employee referrals ranked a little bit higher than internal hires. So employee referrals rank really highly, internal hires, and then social and professional networks ranked third as producing the high-quality candidates that recruiters are looking for. So spin this and reflect on where you now are spending the most of your time in job search. Are you spending the bulk of your time talking to people inside companies, employees that could potentially refer you? Because that's what we know employers are looking for, because they're going to get the higher quality referrals. And don't poo-poo or discount social networks, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you're active. Those are also places and recruiters are going to find high quality candidates. So it's easy, super simple to go to the job boards, but we know they just are not producing the same quality candidates as these other sources. And we'll take a look at this next slide, because this shows us when recruiters ranked the other places that they are going to find candidates for job search, the other sources of hire, internet job boards did rank pretty highly. Outside recruiters, not as well. Direct applications did not rank as well, which was surprising to me. And mobile career site applications did not rank well at all, very highly for high quality. What we're seeing is that when something is super simple, like applying to a job posting on a mobile site, it just tends to dummy down the qualifications of people who are applying. So just to be aware, when something feels too good and too easy to be true, then maybe it is. More and more people have said, job seekers have said, they want the ability to apply through the company's mobile career site. You know, I'm on the go, I don't have time to sit down in front of my desktop and type all the answers in, so they've made that mobile application so you can apply super simple, but it's not necessarily producing recruiters with the right quality of talent that they're looking for. So now knowing what you know, and this really goes to show you the big disparity between the top three, employee referrals, internal hires, and social and professional networks. Those are like 60, 71, 74%. And then all the others, the direct applications, internet job boards, are significantly lower in the number of quality candidates they produce. So there's a big jump there between direct applications and social professional networks. I'm hoping that you use sort of this model, these numbers, as a way to prioritize your job search time investment. So that means 74%, like the bulk of your time, 70% of your time is spent with employee referrals, talking to people inside companies, in looking inside your company and in peripheral groups and organizations, and using social networks to explore all of those options first before you go to the point of applying directly online and other things.
Hey, Hannah?
Yes, ma'am.
We got a question, and it's pertinent to something you mentioned on the previous slide.
Okay.
Jason wants to better understand what you mean by, and can you cite examples by when you mention mobile career site applications? What does that mean, and what are some examples?
Yep. Mobile career site, more and more companies and organizations are coming up with mobile career sites. Sort of like, it's almost like, I can't remember the name of it. It's not Flickr, but it's like Match.com for job boards. And so they list job postings, and you sort of slide the bar right if you like it, and you can apply right then online. There's several different, there's sort of mobile sites that will do that. They're like Tumblr. What is it called? Anyway, those are what I'm talking about. They're startup companies that have quickly allow people to find and apply for jobs. Hopefully that helps. Oftentimes, companies will build their own mobile apps too, because it's become easier to do that. But really, these are sort of those startup companies that are geared towards more like a Tumblr or a dating site that allow people to apply really quickly and easily online. I hope that answers the question.
Well, if it doesn't, I'm sure we'll hear from Jason if it doesn't. So Jason,
Okay.
let us know. Just a comment as you're proceeding. David is interested in understanding how some of what you're sharing applies to C-level positions. So just keep that in mind as you progress.
Right. And so while this data doesn't get broken down, in other words, the recruiters were not necessarily looking at C-level or entry-level positions, this is sort of for all levels within the organization and taken in an aggregate and average form. So we will see that some of these rules at the C-level are a little bit different. Employee referrals will always rank 1. Internal hires will rank highly, and social professional networks, those 3 will always work. But where I think companies are at the C-level may rely more on outside recruiters and agencies more than this 26% thing. Obviously, the other ones are still going to rank highly, but my hunch is, and I don't have the data to prove it, but I would guess that an outside recruiter for a C-level job is probably going to be more reliable and provide higher quality candidates, just because those are jobs that are harder to fill, and a lot of times that requires stealing somebody from another organization. So I think outside recruiters and agencies add a little bit more value in those circumstances. When you are now sort of taking all that information and developing and updating your strategy for job search, my recommendation, and what I've been saying for years, is there are too many tools to make this possible today, LinkedIn being one of them. But whenever you find a job posting, do everything in your power to find an inside contact. Go sleuth LinkedIn. Talk to everybody in your network and find somebody you know who works inside that company that can act as an informant or a referral, or just somebody who can sort of give you the inside scoop as to what's going on. It takes more time, but it will absolutely improve the likelihood that your resume would make it to the top of the pile. LinkedIn, I think a lot of people lurk on LinkedIn. I don't think a lot of people use it to really maximize and showcase what it is they are good at doing on the job. I would encourage everybody to really look more objectively and critique their own profile, to ask themselves the question, if this is all somebody was seeing about me, does it do a good job showcasing, giving proof and evidence, samples of work that tell people what I'm good at doing? And I think we all could do a better job at enriching our LinkedIn profile and making it more descriptive. The other thing that you can think about is because so often companies will promote from within, and if you look at Wegmans as one example, it's really hard, if not impossible, to get a job in the Wegmans corporate office unless you have been in the retail end of things. So in some cases, if you're dying to get in with a company, it may just be worth it to get in at a job that is maybe not an ideal job, but a good job, so that you can rise the ranks and get into the area of the company that you're really interested in. Overall, the takeaway should be spend way less time applying online blindly, because you're just not getting the results that you really want to get. Back a little while ago, and I know 2014 sounds like a long time ago, but it really wasn't, JobVite asked their recruiters how they were using LinkedIn, and I think this is so important for you all for us all to understand. 95% of recruiters said they use LinkedIn to search for candidates. Now, what that means is, in order for you to get for your profile to show up in LinkedIn, you need to have a certain percent of keyword matches. It's very much like a database, and it works in reverse the same way it would be if you were searching for a job on LinkedIn. That frequency and the right use of the word or terms that you're searching for in that job posting determines where they rank. Same thing on LinkedIn. So if I'm looking for somebody who has, a familiarity with data analysis and R software, and you only list data analysis but not the fact that you're familiar with R software, you're not going to rate very highly. I need somebody with both those keywords to show up in order for the candidate to show up high on the list. So I really want you to be familiar with making sure that your profile lists the right keywords for the jobs that you are interested in without lying. 95% of recruiters use LinkedIn to contact candidates. Do not set it and forget it and dismiss the messages that are coming in through LinkedIn, because there are oftentimes that recruiters might be reaching out to you through LinkedIn. Yes, some of them might be bogus, and we have to have our filter on for that, but don't ignore messages from recruiters on LinkedIn. Oftentimes they use LinkedIn 93% of the time to keep tabs on potential candidates. Using the LinkedIn Recruiter package, companies can sort of flag profiles and keep them in a pool so that they can go back and look at them later. 93% of them are also using LinkedIn to vet or pre-evaluate candidates before the interview. So maybe I have your resume and I go and look at your LinkedIn profile. I'm looking to see if these two things match, if I'm learning anything more about you on your LinkedIn profile. Does it look like you're the same kind of person, or is there different information? There are lots of different things that they're looking at to evaluate you pre-interview. And if they're finding inconsistencies or information that is unhelpful in presenting you as a client, a recruiter does not have to move forward with you. So keep in mind, you control what people see on LinkedIn. And a much smaller percentage of recruiters are actually using LinkedIn, but still a very high percent, 91%, to post job postings. So if you haven't thought about using LinkedIn as a job board, yeah, it can do that. But I think that what we're seeing is that recruiters use it for so much more than just a job board. Oftentimes people say, LinkedIn is the go-to platform, the social network that I'm going to use for my job search, and I won't consider any others. Well, I might think twice about that. I'm going to encourage you to keep an open mind, because when JobVite asked recruiters and employers, what social networks are you active on, do you use, what they found is, and what the recruiters reported, is that they are using Facebook, they are using Twitter and Glassdoor and YouTube and Google Plus and Instagram and Snapchat. So depending on the type of candidate they're looking for, and recruiters are having a harder time finding people with exactly the right skills match, they're going to any social network where they think they can sniff out the right kind of talent. So if they're looking for somebody who has skills that might be proving those skills on Instagram or Snapchat or joining communities and following people in that area, that's where they're going. So I hope that this sort of opens your eyes a little bit to the fact that employers are reaching beyond LinkedIn. They know that not everybody is active on LinkedIn, and that in order to find the kind of talent they're looking for with the skill sets they need, they have to branch out and go to some of these other social networks. So if you're not active on those, you may want to think about what it would mean for you to become active on one or more of those. And if you don't want to be active on those, I think you want to also think about how that might impact what employers are able to see about you, or whether they'd be able to connect with you more easily or more difficulty if you weren't there. So when recruiters were asked, okay, what things moved candidates forward in the interview process, these were the top 3 answers they gave: examples of written or design work, engagement in volunteering or mentoring or nonprofits, and mutual connections. So when you think about the things that you've mentioned on your LinkedIn profile, right, these are 3 things that you can absolutely do a better job of showcasing on LinkedIn. Do you include examples of your written work? Many of us do write summaries, executive summaries, memos, proposals, all kinds of different technical papers. If you have done any kind of writing, and that is a part of your job, then maybe you should include a sample of your work. If you're not comfortable doing that, maybe you can create a blog post on LinkedIn that showcases your ability to have a stream of thought and write coherent sentences. If you haven't already shown your engagement in volunteering or mentoring or other nonprofits on LinkedIn, I would encourage you to do that, because that's one more way an employer or recruiter might get a better sense of what your values and priorities are and whether or not you might be a potential match for their organization. And mutual connections, if your LinkedIn network and your other networks reflect your real-life relationships, then you're golden. You want to make sure that you are connected to people that you know and you like and that you'd want to be able to say you're associated with. Oftentimes, I think what happens is we know people, but we're not connected with them on LinkedIn because we just thought, oh, gosh, I see them every day. I don't necessarily need to be connected with them on LinkedIn. That may or may not be a wise move. If you're working with somebody every day, maybe you don't need to be connected with them on LinkedIn, but if you used to work with them every day, have you forgotten to add them to your network? Past colleagues make great references, are people that know your work, and you definitely want to make sure that past colleagues you are connected with. And I think oftentimes we forget to connect with those people once we're gone. So when employers and recruiters were looking at the things that potential candidates and candidates shared online on social networks that turned them off, the two more popular ones were obviously marijuana use and political rants. So if you ever have added to a conversation in a group on Facebook, or you have added to a conversation stream of somebody else's that you don't own, your political rant or your whatever you're sharing could potentially be viewable by other people. The interesting thing about marijuana use, because marijuana has become legalized in several states across the country, that number of recruiters who feel that is a bad thing, that seeing marijuana use has declined a little bit than it has in years past. Spelling and grammar errors, I think we oftentimes do not pay enough attention to how that negatively impacts our personal brand and reputation. I personally, we've all made spelling and grammar mistakes on social networks. Sometimes our fingers are fat and we don't hit the keys right. But you definitely want to make, especially during a job search and you're knowing that our reach is far beyond just the immediate people we know, pay extra special attention to spelling and grammar. When I'm on my PC, I make sure that I always have my Grammarly turned on, and so whenever I'm adding a social update, my Grammarly will catch the typo or spelling error and some grammar errors as well, and remind me of it so I don't overlook that. So that's a little trick I use. I think sometimes we don't realize that having too little of a social presence can also work against us. And that's 12% of recruiters said that if somebody had a limited social presence, and that can be a couple of things. One, they're only active on maybe one social network, and maybe that's LinkedIn. But the other thing is they may have a LinkedIn profile but with very little information and no activity. So it could be a limited presence and limited activity. That is a factor for 12% of the recruiters who are looking at that, and a negative factor. So this, I think, gives you some idea. Some of it we know, some of it we don't necessarily think about, but these are all things that work against you as recruiters are looking at your social media status updates on LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever they can find you.
Hey, Hannah?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to interrupt you. Paul wants to know, are recruiters actually using Facebook to find candidates or to just look at the personality of a candidate that is already being considered? Can you comment on that?
So it's hard to say exactly what every single recruiter is doing. Oftentimes, what we have found, what has been reported by other polls and organizations that are asking recruiters, when you go to these sites, what are you looking for? Oftentimes, what they say is they are trying to better understand the personality of the individual to see if they are going to be a match. And if they are doing things what are their outside interests that would be a match for the company? What are they saying? What groups do they belong to? What is important to this person so they can feel like they know them a little bit better than they would just during the interview process. So it's hard to know. Whatever information they can find out about you on Facebook, they can use to assess whether or not they think that you're a good fit. So I just encourage people to be very mindful and aware of what they make public and what they don't make public on on Facebook. We do have a lot of privacy and setting controls on Facebook that if we don't know about them, we should know. Every status update that we give can be private or public. When we do comment on a group that is a public group, that comment is viewable by everybody. So there's some privacy settings that we should know about, and I think the basic rule of thumb is whatever you're putting out there publicly is viewable publicly, and anybody can use that information to make a determination on whether they want you in their company or not.
And one other question along those lines from Kelly. If a recruiter has a paid LinkedIn Premium subscription, can they see things on someone's profile that are different from what the average person would see?
I don't have the Recruiter Premium, so I can't exactly speak to what they can see. I have been told that they don't really see more of what you've listed, more than what you've listed. But what they do see is sort of a different connection when names show up in search results. I think that is my understanding of what is really different. I think that when a recruiter uses their LinkedIn, the premium or the recruiter version, that their search results can be refined much differently. What they see as far as a profile is concerned is not all that different. That is my understanding. If it's anything other than that, I'll do some asking around. I can let everybody know through Cindy if there's anything other than that, and source some information for you.
Okay, thank you. And then just a comment that came in from one of our participants. Is there seems to be a potential fine line between vetting candidates through social media where you're starting to tread on potential legalities and discrimination type possibilities. Yes, would you say that there is some sort of distinction between crossing over that line?
Yeah, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not certified in human resources either. But I will say that for the most part, this information is all public, right? So it's not as if recruiters are doing any back road interrogation and information gathering. It is publicly sourceable information. So whatever we're putting out there as public is then in the public domain and open. So whether or not people are using it legally or illegally, whether they are using it to discriminate against candidates or not, is going to be difficult to prove. And so from a legal standpoint, I know that there have been people in the HR realm who've said, I'm not going to touch I'm not going to touch social media. I think it opens up a can of worms for liability, and I don't want to go there. But then you talk to other recruiters, and they're like, I can't do my job without social media, so I'm going to risk whatever it takes because I believe too strongly in it. I don't think there's been anything definitive that has come out that has said that it's illegal to use social media, and so until we hear otherwise, again, I'm not a certified human resource professional, so I'm not up to everything, but in the circles that I run, I have heard that more people are just being smart about how they are talking about their use of it. And, when they dismiss a candidate, they're not ever going to give you a reason why they're dismissing a candidate.
All right. Thank you, Hannah.
Yep. There are some things that we can do to make sure that when a recruiter finds us online that we are giving them only the best information about us, right? So one of those things is to treat LinkedIn like a portfolio or to create our own online portfolio, because we saw that 65% of recruiters said that one of the top 3 things that moved candidates forward in the interview process was seeing examples of written or design work. So if you could increase your chances by 65% of getting on to the next level by showing samples of your work or having an online portfolio, then that seems like a pretty simple thing to do. And the tools are out there today to make it simpler than others. If you also think about being more active on social media, this is the private versus the public versus private clause, but oftentimes on LinkedIn we think, we will only share information about what we're doing on the job or things that are related to work. What if you did take more thought and share something about an outside volunteer activity that you were passionate about, like helping kids, raise money for kids with incurable diseases or whatever that is? Showing something outside of work, something a little bit more personal, adds that element of realness, genuine, being a real person. I think oftentimes we say on LinkedIn, everyone has a different philosophy on who they're going to connect with, but if you connect with more people on LinkedIn, it is absolutely going to increase the potential for more people to uncover you. The more people you're connected to, the more rich your network becomes. And those are some stats that LinkedIn has looked at over the years. I think overall being very mindful of everything that you post across all social media channels will be a wise thing. So some of the feedback that JobVite got was about the interview process itself. So it's time to ask you guys, again, for a little audience participation here, during the first interview, what do you think most influences a recruiter? Is it your appearance, your confidence, your skills and achievements, conversational skills, enthusiasm, or industry knowledge? Which of those do you think during the first interview is most influential to a recruiter? And I posted this a while ago on my LinkedIn page with the results, and I think that some people disagreed with what the recruiters found. One of the hiring managers said that he does not give a hoot about one of these things, and he only evaluates sort of their past work experience. He doesn't look at any of these things. So I think, again, it emphasizes the point that not all recruiters are the same in what they value. A lot of this is not an exact science, but a matter of personal preference. So just keep in mind that we can only do what we can do to make the best first impression, and to reach the individual that we're talking with will never please everybody. So we sort of look at what during that first interview, what is it that most influences a recruiter to help them make your decision? A lot of you didn't answer, but for those of you that did answer, it looks like the number one is confidence. And I think the tricky thing here is, well, gosh, how does somebody evaluate confidence? Is that body language? Is that voice quality? Is it the nonverbals, or is it the actual things that people say? But confidence, you all said, ranked very highly. Same with conversation skills and enthusiasm, and you're right on track, because what the recruiters said rated most important was conversation skills, and then knowledge of the industry, and then enthusiasm. So let's break this down a little bit. During that first interview, right, that's sort of a make or break case. It is that chance for somebody to get to know you. They can't evaluate everything during that first interview. What they're looking for in many cases is, how well is this person able to carry on a conversation? Are they worth bringing back? Because you all know more than I that companies are bringing people back for 2, 3, 4 interviews, right? So during this first interview, your ability to hold a conversation, to be able to talk, seems very important to a lot of recruiters. Second on the list is your knowledge of the industry. And so this is not necessarily experience in the industry, but how knowledgeable are you about what is going on in the industry? I would say more often than not, people are changing careers and or industries, right? So it would be impossible for somebody to change industries if they've only worked in one industry. We have to know, and employers realize, that people are shifting industries, and that's a good thing, because oftentimes when you shift industries, you bring that knowledge from your past industry into the new industry, and that perspective and that sort of cross-breeding and cross sharing of information is beneficial to everybody. So what recruiters are saying here is, how knowledgeable are you about the industry I am in? And that can come across in the readings that you do, the classwork that you've taken, the exposure that you've had to that industry without actually having to have worked in it. And that top third area is enthusiasm. And we've heard this said 1,000 billion times. Like, I can train somebody with the skills, but I cannot make somebody more enthusiastic about the job. So if you're showing enthusiasm for the kind of role or the company, then that goes a long way to moving you through the process, and that's exactly what recruiters are saying. You know, even if you may not be the greatest fit, if you can show enthusiasm, I'm going to move you along in the process. So here are things that every single one of us can do today to sort of up our skills for the interview. If we are not necessarily artful at small talk, I really want you to practice making small talk. For many of us, and I'm an introvert, I don't like talking to people I don't know, and I find small talk trivial and unimportant, but it is probably the most important thing that you can do to build rapport and to warm up that conversation. So if it's not something that comes comfortable, you need to practice it so that it does become more comfortable. It's a learned skill that anybody can learn as long as they are willing to practice that. And that will go a long way to helping build that conversation skill that is really important to recruiters. Even if you're going to be in the back office coding, everybody has to interact with managers or colleagues in some way, shape, or form at some point during the day. And if you're not able to do that, I'm not sure how well you play on the team. I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to contribute. It's almost a part of your emotional level of emotional intelligence. One of the best ways to find something to start small talk is to identify something in common. And by sleuthing somebody on LinkedIn or talking to people you might know in common, you're able to find, if you can find that some point in commonality, maybe you both have an interest for staying up on tech trends, or maybe you both have an iPhone, or maybe you both graduated from RIT. If you can find that whatever you have in common and use that as a way to build that point of commonality, it goes a long way in establishing rapport and making that interview conversation go better. And really, the interview is a conversation. It's not an interrogation. You are there to learn about that employer and that job just as much as they are there to learn about you. Because if it turns out to be a crappy job working in a bad company, you wouldn't take it. So you are there for exactly the same reasons. That means that your interview should be a conversation, a back and forth exchange of information. They're learning about you and you are learning about them. And in order for that to happen, you, the job seeker, the interviewee, must prepare questions to ask. What do you need to know answers to? Why do people like working here? What will you do in the first 30 days that would ensure your success? I mean, there are lots of great questions to ask, and so I encourage you to bring those questions with you so they don't fly out the window and you don't forget them. The more you know about the interviewer, the company, and the industry, the more intelligently you're going to be able to speak to them. And your enthusiasm, your interest, and your passion for the work is going to come across. And that's, again, something that is very difficult to dismiss and overlook. That enthusiasm for the job really helps bump you on into the next level of candidate. There are things you can do that would disqualify you. I'm going to focus on the top 4 or 5, but please take a second and read this full list. Do not ever be rude to the receptionist or any support staff or anybody inside that office building. 86% of recruiters have said that is one thing that will immediately disqualify a candidate. And oh, by the way, it happens more often than you would think. Checking the phone during either the interview or during the interview would be a disqualifier. Showing up late would be a disqualifier. Bad hygiene would be a disqualifier. Interrupting the interviewer or bringing food or a beverage into the interview would be a disqualifier. And oh, by the way, these recruiters are saying that this stuff is happening. So I don't know where the message went wrong or why people think that they could bring food. It reminds me of an episode of The Office that a guy brought his sandwich in and started eating during lunch. Why would you bring in a beverage or food to an interview? So these are just some of the things that really are still happening today, and we all just need to be more aware of that. Those will get you knocked out of the running for an interview. This is more along the lines of strange or unusual. These are things that candidates have done that have gotten them eliminated. A candidate wearing casual attire, almost like jeans, to an interview. A candidate who didn't know what company they were interviewing for was eliminated. These just happens 54% of the time. An interview lasting 10 minutes. So, as I said, the interview is a two-way street, but if you don't have any questions for me and I don't have any, as the interviewer, I don't really have an interest in you, that interview is not going to last very long. So interview blunders happen, and if you ever feel like the interview is not going your way, I really want you to think about what you can do to take control of that situation. You might think, gosh, I don't have any right to take control of it, but you do, because this is your one chance at making a great first impression. So if you feel like the questions they're asking aren't quite on track, or you haven't been able to give your full answer, I would suggest that you try something, interrupting the interview, which they say not to do, but stopping the interview and saying, you know what, I'm not getting a good feel that my skills are coming across as well as they really should during this conversation. Can we just take a step back and maybe take a look at some of the things that I would have answered differently at this point in the process? It's up to you to make that happen. And I think, if you only have one chance, maybe that is the one thing that you need to do. So these are some of the things, the highlights from what you don't want to do during an interview. Leave that phone in your bag or in the car so you're not even tempted. You're in the interview for whatever period of time. You're not going to need it because everybody you need to be talking to is in that room, unless there's some other emergency. But that's going to be hard to explain. And always arrive early. Those are the key takeaways from this really interesting survey of 800 recruiters that JobVite did this year. And I invite any other questions at this point because I think that at least it's gotten you thinking, and you might have some more questions that I can answer for you.
All right, Hannah, thank you. So now's the time, folks. There's about 11 minutes left in our time today, so please send your questions in. We do have some that I'm going to just read. They're all very different, and so let's just take them as I see them. If we don't get to your question, I will refer them to Hannah, and she will provide me with some answers that I will send you via email because I won't get to all of these. There are plenty. So very quickly, Kelly asked earlier on in the presentation, I think there was a reference made to profile keywords, and I guess she's looking for some distinction between actual keywords in your narrative in the profile versus, like on LinkedIn, the featured skills. Can you kind of talk to one or both of those and how they're different?
Yep. So when I use the term keyword sort of broadly, there are three. We don't know for sure. Every website has an algorithm, right? And when a recruiter says they're looking for somebody with data analysis skills in R, there's some algorithm that LinkedIn uses to pull all of those profiles. And so there are many different factors that go into this. But what we can say is that we believe, the people who are analyzing LinkedIn, believe there are important places that these words need to be in your profile in order for your profile to show up, highly ranked. One is in your headline. So if there are key terms or words that are related to the job, they should be in your headline, in your summary, and highlighted as skills in the skills section. those are perceived to be the three most influential places for the use of keywords: the headline, the summary, and those skills, that skills section. It doesn't mean you can't put them other places, but those would be the most important places to have them.
Okay, so that addresses the keywords. How's that different from featured skills?
Featured skills is just that one section of LinkedIn where you would enter any skills that you have and want to be sort of supported for or endorsed for. That is certainly one element of what gets used to pull profiles, but it's not the full package. LinkedIn's algorithm goes deeper and broader than just that one section if a recruiter or somebody is searching for profiles. So you enter in those skills that you want to be sort of supported for or thumbed up for or endorsed for, and that does count for something, but that's not the only place to enter in those keywords.
So I'm going to rephrase a particular question that came in because I'm not quite sure I understand it. But someone's asking for more insight around job titles, and my interpretation is, would it be inappropriate to vary your job titles on LinkedIn compared to your resume? I mean, technically, we should not be creative with our job titles, right? Because those are given to us by the companies and organizations we work for. But how can we differentiate between LinkedIn and a resume?
I think they should look similar, and usually what I recommend doing is forward slashing or adding a hyphen of some sort. So if I'm known as a human resource specialist, but that's also an HR generalist, I could put HR specialist / whatever it is, HR generalist. I could have both of those titles in my LinkedIn profile. And the reason I might want to do that is the two could potentially be interchangeable. There's not a big difference between them. But if I'm applying for a job that is an HR generalist, then my thought is that a recruiter would be searching for people who have held the job title of HR generalist in the past. If they don't see that in my profile and the search results don't remedy anything because I put HR specialist, then I might not get discovered. So there is an argument for using sort of a hyphenated or a / job title on LinkedIn, just because without lying, it may help your profile get discovered by more recruiters looking for somebody who's searching for that job title.
Okay, so hopefully that helps. Let's move on. Sylvan is asking about, are there suggestions to reaching out to recruiters before they reach out to you?
There's nothing that says that you can't reach out to a recruiter before they contact you. And quite honestly, a lot of job seekers do that. They want to connect with an HR representative inside a company so that they would be top of mind should an opportunity come up. It really depends on the personal preference of the recruiter or HR person inside the company as to whether or not they want to connect with you. Some people don't want to connect with anybody who might be a candidate but would only connect once they have become an employee. Other recruiters and HR people don't care. But there's nothing that says you could not try to connect with them on LinkedIn. And I will say that it's critical that everyone customizes their invitation to connect using LinkedIn so that it says something more than, because you're somebody I trust, I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn. You must always customize your LinkedIn profile request to connect. And if you are using your mobile device, then you need to long hold and look for the 3 dots on the person's profile to make sure that you see that customized invite or send a specialized invite. The other rule of thumb here about personalizing the invite, customizing the invite, is if you are planning on inviting somebody and you're on your LinkedIn desktop, never click on the connect button unless you are on the person's profile. LinkedIn gives you the opportunity in groups and other places to connect with people, but you're not on their profile. Before you click on that connect button, be on their profile so that you will always have the opportunity to customize the invitation. Otherwise, it will send out the generic invite. But yeah, you can try. It can't hurt to try to invite somebody in HR. There's no rule against it.
All right, so along the lines of the recruiter, or I guess any hiring manager this would apply to, David's asking about age and potential discrimination, which we know is illegal again on people of a certain age, but is there a way to finesse your profile on LinkedIn, your resume, so that you're not obviously disclosing your age, especially when you're either on the lower end of that spectrum or the upper end of that spectrum?
Right. So being aware of age discrimination, I think, is important as long as we don't let it obsess. If you don't want to allow people to know too much information about your age, then don't include the dates that you graduated from school, and don't list every job you've ever had on LinkedIn. Pretty simple. List just the most 10, 15 years experience, and don't put the dates that you graduate from college or high school. Those are the same rules we use with our resume too, by the way. Do not include, dates on the education if it's older than 5 years, and be very aware about how far back in your work history you go. No one said that your resume had to go back to the very first job you ever had.
Okay, we've got 3 minutes left. I've got one or two more I'm going to ask, and then those that we don't get to, I'm going to talk to Hannah offline and get some answers out to you. One of them, a question submitted earlier on, has to do with the shift in the job world, because there are more opportunities to telecommute, work from home. So how do those positions and interviewing for those positions change, since typically you probably aren't doing this interview in person?
But what will happen is that they will be video interviewing you, so you will be on camera, and all the same rules of body language and communication skills apply through video as they do in a face-to-face interview. So video interviews would replace the in-person interview, and I can't think of any other things other than not being in the room that would change. They miss the handshake, but everything else, they miss the personal hygiene issue, but everything else is pretty much the same as far as I can tell.
Good, thank you. Last question before we wrap, and I'm going to have to abbreviate it. Amy was asking about, she's applied for positions online. She thinks that there's some interest, but she doesn't know anyone who currently works there. So what suggestions do you have in order for her to kind of make a deeper inroads into that organization?
So she may not think she knows anybody. I hope that she has asked every single person in her network, almost through a blanket email, who do you know who works at XYZ company? I need to talk to somebody. I'm applying for a job there, and I'm really interested in working there. If you've sent that email out to everybody in your personal network, everybody you know through church and your neighborhood and all that, that's step one. Step two is going to LinkedIn and seeing if you can find anybody who works for that company that is either a second level or a third level, and use that as a way to reach out to that person. So when you're a second level connection with somebody, that means that you have a shared connection. In other words, you and that person both know somebody. So she can reach out to that person that is a mutual connection and say, hey, and this is through email or through phone, and say, hey, I see that you know so-and-so. They work for this company. I'd really be interested in speaking with them. Could you introduce me? If, let's say, that there are no second-level connections, that the best you've got is a third-level connection, which is a complete stranger, then it costs nothing, and it's worth trying to send that person an email saying, you're in a similar role, or you work for this company, and because you're in this role, I'm really interested in getting your perspective on what it's like to work there. That, you should go through every single one of those steps before you say you've exhausted all your options, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Which isn't easy.
Yep, I agree. Thank you. All right, all the alumni out there, I'm going to remind you that you do have a benefit here at RIT. You can contact the Career Services Office. They will help you with cover letter writing, interview practice, resume writing, a whole host of benefits. You can visit the alumni website or the Career Services website for a lot more information. The questions that came in, I will share them with Hannah and try to get everyone some answers via email. If more questions come in, you can email them to ritalum@rit.edu or tweet them to @RIT_alumni with the hashtag #MeRIT. Hannah, thank you again for being our panelist today. We are very appreciative of your time. Thanks to all of you out there for participating. Please consider joining us on December 14th for our next webinar on meal prep for healthy eating with 2010 alumna Yanari Garcia, founder of IamHealthyFit.com. That's all the time we have. Apologize for being a minute over. Please tell us how we did today by taking the brief and anonymous survey when you exit today's webinar. Thanks again to everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.